This story teaches your child about the celebration of Easter Sunday, which is between March and April every year. Today's story is Eddie's Easter Delivery Service. Eddie the Echidna was racing his sister down a big green hill. "Prepare to lose!" he yelled out cheekily. "No way!" his sister replied. Eddie could see his sister catching up to him. He had to go faster. "Time for super speed!" Eddie cried, rolling himself into a ball to spin faster. Eddie was going so fast, all he could see was a rush of green grass blades. "Woo-hoo-hoo!" he cried excitedly. "I'm going to get you!" his sister yelled. But suddenly, Eddie noticed the green grass turned into a brown, rocky path. Eddie began to panic. He was going so fast that he found it hard to stop. Eddie felt himself fall. Thump! He landed on hard, cold soil. Whoop, whoop, whoop! Wee-ah, wee-ah, wee-ah! A loud siren blared into the darkness. Eddie was so scared it made the spikes on his back stand up straight. "Freeze!" shouted a loud voice, pointing a torch at Eddie. "You have entered private property." The torch was so bright that Eddie could barely see. "What kind of egg is that?" he heard someone yell. "It moves! The spiky egg moves!" "I'm not an egg. I'm an echidna," replied Eddie. "What's an echidna?" another voice cried. "I know exactly what an echidna is," said a calm, soft voice. Eddie heard footsteps come closer into the torchlight. It was a caramel-coloured, floppy-eared bunny rabbit in a purple jumpsuit. "I'm Harriet, head of Easter Bunny headquarters, and these are my colleagues," said the bunny. "You've dropped in at just the right time, Mr. Echidna." "Really? Because it feels like the wrong time and the wrong place. I should be back home with my sister," replied Eddie. "We'll find your sister and we'll find your home. But first, we need your help at headquarters immediately," insisted Harriet. After a zippy trip in the Bunnymobile, Eddie and the Easter Bunnies arrived at their headquarters. Inside, hundreds of bunnies were making colourful Easter eggs. Eddie had never smelled chocolate before, but it smelled just as good as a bucket of ants. "Wow! What's all this about?" Eddie asked. "Easter, the most important day of our year," Harriet replied. Harriet explained that Easter was a Christian celebration that happens once a year between March and April. On this day, children wake up to find chocolate eggs from the Easter bunnies. "You mentioned you needed my help," Eddie said. "But I know nothing about Easter, or eggs, or chocolate." "That's true," agreed Harriet. "But you know this town. You see, we have a big problem on our paws and we're running out of time." Harriet took Eddie to their planning room where they had a big map of the town with lots of red dots. "The red dots are all the houses we've built underground tunnels to, so we can secretly deliver Easter eggs on Easter morning," explained Harriet. She pointed to a section of the map that had no red dots. "This is when our GPS mapping system crashed. We now have 24 hours left and at least 10 houses in this area without tunnel connections. We desperately need to find a way to deliver eggs to these houses." "Why don't you go above ground to deliver them?" asked Eddie. Mr. Echidna, I don't think you understand. No child has ever seen a real Easter bunny. We pride ourselves on our secrecy. Eddie had a thought. What if he went above ground? After all, no one had ever heard of an Easter Echidna. Plus, this was Eddie's town. He knew the area like the back of his claw. His brain, nose, and sense of vibration made it easy for him to find things. Better than a GPS. Eddie told Harriet his plan. She loved the idea. We'll deliver all the eggs to you through the nearest tunnel. They'll be in a grass-covered bag so no one sees what's inside, Harriet instructed. Each delivery had to be timed very carefully to make sure every house had eggs before sunrise. When the early morning came, Eddie began his Easter deliveries. He tucked the eggs into his belly and rolled himself into a ball. Express Easter delivery coming up, laughed Eddie, racing back and forth to each house in super speed. After Eddie's final delivery, he hid behind a rock to look into a house's window. A brother and sister were very excited to see the eggs he left them. The smiles on their faces made Eddie feel happy. He then remembered his sister. He missed her. Psst, Mr. Echidna. It was Harriet on the Bunnymobile, hiding in the tunnel. We still have one last delivery. You to your sister. Eddie jumped on the back of the Bunnymobile, and within moments, he was at the same hole he fell into the day before. Thank you for saving Easter, Mr. Echidna, said Harriet. We will never forget you. Before Eddie could reply, Harriet disappeared into the darkness. Eddie, is that you? It was Eddie's sister. She'd slept overnight next to the hole he fell into, hoping he'd return. What happened? Are you okay? Where were you? She asked, worried. It's a long story, sis, Eddie replied, smiling. Happy Easter! The lesson we learnt today is that Easter is a special day we celebrate with family and friends every year between March and April. We hope you enjoyed this Schooling Online production. Check out the rest of the stories in our Life Stage series to help your child cope with developmental changes.